We all know that Penn believes the imagination allows writers and readers to transcend their own place in the world to include the ideas of others. This place for some writers have been prison, where the imagination has meant interior freedom and often survival. The imagination is the territory of all discovery as ideas come into being as one creates them. It is often in the confluence of contradiction, found in metaphor and simile, where the most profound human experiences reside. For almost 100 years, Penn has stood for freedom of expression. Penn also stands for and believes in the freedom of the empathic imagination, while recognizing that many have not been the ones to tell their own stories. So you as writers, as poets, you are the ones who tell the story of others, to tell the story, you tell the stories of someone who was not able to tell their own story in your novels, in your poems, and in your poetry. And here we gathered as poets because Penn stands for poets, essayists, and novelists alike, and other women and men of letters, but first letter is poets. And then here we start this freedom of imagination manifesto with poetry reading and with your thoughts and with your poems that you have gathered for the subject. We will start with Bina, Sarkar, Ellias from Mumbai. She's Indian poetess. She writes in Bengali. She also edits a magazine in India and so on. She is a lifetime cultural worker, and she will read some of her poems. Here we'll have a reading, and later the Jennifer Clement, poet and writer and president of International Pen, will tell us something how she wrote this Freedom of Imagination manifesto, and she will tell us something about other Pen recent activities in the world. So, but I will thank you all for one time, for time again that you came here, everybody. And Bina, please, you told me that you are Bengali, your language is Bengali, but you write in English. So thank you if you can hear us well, and we will hear you good. And so please start.
Thank you, Tomika, first of all, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Greetings to all of you from Bombay. I'm going to start reading right away. I just wanted to say that I'm an editor and publisher of this magazine. I've been doing this for 23 years, and I've also written many books of poems. Now in India, to quickly give you a view of India, we're going through a very disturbed political phase, and we live in fear most of the time because activists and all those who protest are being put into prison. So the first poem I will read is called Manufactured Fear. Manufactured fear I do not dread, fear that is force-fed into my flesh, fear of who I am and who I cannot be, fear of national flags that dictate my identity, fear of food that betrays my religion or my lack of one is seen as blasphemy. I am a wanderer of the earth. I'm an atom of the universe. And I may be unwise, but manufactured fear, I fear not you, your hate-filled eyes, nor your blood-stained lies. I fear not you. You will kill and you will maim. You will be our history's shame. But truth will ring true. I fear not you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you very much.
One poem. Should I read another one?
Of course, you read 3, and so you can say something about your work too, and so like what you do now and so on.
Well, I juggle a lot of things. I wear too many hats. I design, I write, I edit, I publish, I write poetry, I write short fiction. So I'm really busy most of the time. This is my new book of poems, Song of a Rebel, which was launched just last week in Bombay. And I keep writing, and it's wonderful to be sharing with all of you, and I'm waiting to hear all of you as well. So the next poem I will read is Ode to Utopia. It was as if the sky was washed clean, sparkling like a new minted coin. It was as if it believed in hope, as if the dark clouds were in exile, vanished forever. It was as if the storm had taken a sabbatical and become a monk in the mountains, as if politicians had surrendered to compassion. It was as if they had drunk from the sea of Soma and become slaves of peace, as if their corrupt skins had peeled off their scheming minds and flown away, as if all walls and boundaries had blurred into one language, love, as if the tree of life was luminous with fruit of all colors and creeds communing in harmony. It was as if Rag Bhairav was in dialogue with Mozart's Nocturne, and a shamisen strummed to the tinkle of the African kalimba. It was as if spring had migrated into our lives for permanent residency. And then I woke up. And then I swept away the mist from my eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you.
Is that all, or?
Yes. Thank you for being here. So if you can stay a little bit more, I know it is very late in Bombay.
I would love to hear others.
Of course.
I was not feeling too well, and I thought I would not be able to stay. But now that I see all the faces, I'm so excited, and I want to listen to everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your poems with us here. So let me greet our president of PEN International, Jennifer Clement. She just entered our room, or the hall, the poetry hall, whichever way we call it. So thank you for being here with us. And I will just call all of you in the way that I made this flyer that you have seen here, and there is also in the chat book. So Dorta, I have your poems here in English, and then I will put them on the share screen, so you can, if you can hear me, you can unmute and read your poetry in Croatian. Yes. I hope you all see the Dorta's poem in English. So Dorta is a Croatian poet and theater activist and
editor, and
she runs this workshops for poetry and for theater.
Yes.
And of course I have to say that Dorta won the European Poet of Freedom Award. Recently.
Yes, the Freedom.
Oh yes, so that's why you are very.
This is especially flattering.
You're very welcomed here in Penzum.
Thank you very much, Tomica, and everyone. I hope you will enjoy my reading and feel and acknowledge why I chose this one, called Istanbulski nar. Blizu palače Topkapi musavi se dječaci utrkuju s kolicima punim nara. Krvave voćne kugle padaju od njihova smijeha, kotrljaju se niz ulice malih hotela, postolara i tkalaca svile. Ne sudjelujem. Ja samo gledam sve to vrenje lica, mačke oko fontana, tepihe bazara kao komad fotoleća, kao prizemljeni Sputnik 1. Baš kao i ja, stara se Aja Sofija dementno čudi, a kako je to i kad Crno more pustilo tamnu pupčanu vrpcu Bospora dolje do mramornog mora, kao plavi ljubavni sok, pun boli. Bolne sole s tisuće malih bijelih vjenčanica meduza, što peku kožu između Europe i Azije. Another one. This is about freedom. Labud pod mostom. Da, swan beneath the bridge. Ponekad svijet je lijep kao pir. Visi nad nama kao lažni kristalni luster i pucaju čaše pune nektara u porculanske zube. Stolice su uredno popunjene oko obiteljskog stola za 7 milijardi mogućih objeda sreća. Kad nestane svjetla, ponekad osjetiš krv na jeziku i da su nam stolice zarivene u izmet svinja iz tundre nagutanih biserima, u dijamantne lubanje Demjena Hirsta, a nešto bijelo poput prazne, otrovne damske rukavice omota se oko vrata i guši. Davi kao JMBG, porezni broj, OIB. Duh pitona. Nije to tako rijetko. Recimo, prije mnogo vodenih godina ta se kolutava sjena omotala oko vrata Izidore Duncan u Nici i vrata Jesenjine u Petrogradu. Jednom sam u snu vidjela tu oprugu smrti, sjenu što vreba na labuđe vratove, kao mrtvačka ogrlica. Tu najdužu omču svijeta, pitona reticulatusa, u rijeci ispod mosta u Gdansku. Progutao je neku ženu. Poslije 2 tjedna u samotnoj večeri vidjela sam ga u terariju u podu restorana, kako bulji u svoje golemo jaje i u crnim balerinkama, stala sam mu točno nad glavom. Sutra sam se vratila na most, na kojem je netko napisao Freedom, nacrtao pticu, a ispod je klizio najljepši labud. Pomislila sam kako je samo život mogao tako svečano sjesti na raskriljeni Izadorin jastuk. Should I read? Childish rooms, yes? Djetinjaste sobe. Djetinjaste sobe. Neke stare sobe iz djetinjstva s vremenom postanu sve ovisnije o prašini i pažnji. Musavo infantilne i natljeve. Djevojčice starice. Na primjer, ako je ovo zbilja moja soba, a zašto ne sjaji kao pronto, sama od sebe, kao prije? Zašto pušta toliko kilograma prašine dnevno na sve te vrijedne stvari? Kao da potajno ušmrkava tu sivu vampirsku perut ili ubrizgava ravno u vaze, tepihe, u mene, ne bi li na nešto mučno zaboravila? Ne. Ipak ta djevojčica starica, fini mljeveni ostatak stvari, taloži za svoj umirovljenički 5 o'clock kakao, koji će sjetno pijuckati s drugim napuštenim sobama iz kvarta, kad je ostavljen zbog nekog zrelijeg drugog. Thank you very much.
Hvala ti, Dorta.
Thank you. Thank you for invitation.
Thank you very much to being here with us, and thank you for sharing your poetry. I would like to ask Nataša Sardžoska, the poet, anthropologist, professor, teacher, and she's a wanderer of a kind, writer, but also, before everything, she's a poet, and then she will share with us some of her poems. Just I will put on the screen some of your, if you say Right, okay. So you will see, you will hear, you will read.
Can I read the Cartography of Fire in Macedonia and the other two in English?
Okay, okay, okay.
Laissez-passer and Confined Body in English. Okay?
All right.
Right, this is Cartography of Fire.
Okay.
So this is a poem that I found very, how can I say, adequate for the confinement period that we all lived in. I wrote this poem some years ago, but somehow it became a very actual and anticipatory about this state of mind that we are all living, like completely confined and isolated from the everything in the world. I will read it in my native tongue, in Macedonian, and you can see the translation in English. За никаде сме. Никаде не заминуваме. Од никаде и не доаѓаме. Цртежи сме по перони. Испуштаме здив на аеродромски излези. Слушаме глуви разговори по автопати. Зјапаме во прозорци на запрени метроа. Возовите на тишината доцнат, летовите се презакажани, деновите одложени, за никогаш повеќе. Вино зоврива на здивените усни, на рабовите од нашиот ум, очите облаци замрзнати, нашите грла димни раздувани во пустина, степани вирее по јазикот, џунгла во половити провалии во градите, горешти од печатоци сме под дождот, под кристалното небо кое што не покрива ниту една земја. Зариваме зад нашите стапала сенки во жив песок. Одежди пурпурни раскинати од бездомници без страга. Жезла отфрлени од секое кралство сме. Ногти и заби и очи ископани од историјата, изгубени во непрегледните сртови на нашата плод. Искинати мапи на нашите колена. Копна што ги гризат своите гребени и своите приморја. На рабовите од нашиот клеточен копнеш, по бреговите на мртвите нации. Гориме само за тој миг, кога знаеш, кога знам. Повезен левен си ти, грб му вртиш на источниот ветер и си заминуваш. Но химера не си повеќе, ни прогон, никогаш нема ни да бидеш за мене. Terra incognita. Now, yes, good, we have to exit the share screen. So now I will read this laissez-passer. And it's, because I lived a pretty, how can I say, I wouldn't call it nomadic because it sounds very fashionable. You said it well, wandering life. I've lived in 10 different countries and I really felt the sense of not belonging, of not being affiliated, of not having a home, a fatherland, and this sense of being all the time some kind of a migrant and internally exiled citizens brought me to write this poem, because sometimes I really felt that I dwelt much of my time more on airports and border crossings than in my home, which is not the case of this past year. Anyways, the title is Laissez-passer, and I will read this in English and the next poem too. I do not celebrate the victories of the homeland. The disruptions are harmoniously beaten inside me, and that is fair enough for me. I do not mourn the falls. My home is built from within me, and I dwell in there. I kneel down with closed eyes, and I wait for the sentinel to let me in. I wait to cross the straits which are not mine. I wait for the storm to blow me up, to clear away this exiled voice. Thrown into oblivion, I stink. I count the meaningless existences which pass me by and by and by, and beyond them I see. Everything rises and everything falls apart, again and again and again. as in this household, as in this life-hold. As horned viper, I'm sneaking in. I wait for the windmill to turn around my place, while somewhere in the world I hear deaf winds are roaring. In my inner field to stand still, I wait. To pass to the other side, I wait. In a queue to be aligned, to be called somehow, I wait. It doesn't matter how. However, I wait to be stamped by the border policeman. And the next one is Confined Body. It was originally written in English. It is an unpublished poem. The former two are from this book, Coxis. And this poem is Confined Body, called Confined Body, and I wrote it while I was during the month of March and April, while we had the lockdown and we were all confined in our homes. So I felt that my body has become some sort of a frontier, of a border between me, my existence, and the rest of the world of contagion. So in a way, I observed my body as a field, as a territory, as a zone. So it goes like this. This body is not my body. Other bodies live inside me. Bodies that I call mine, because to me they belong. To me they recall. I do have a pact with all the microorganisms inhabiting this body, seeking out for me, burning from within, screaming loud and loud, for they want to get outside of me. But I will never give them a ceasefire. This body is not my body. This body is every day haunted by army and old red guests. They take what they want and they leave what they need. This body is nailed by winds. They leave as fire defeats. From my nostrils they abandon this body empty. This body is not my body. Inside these bodies there are tenants. Inside these bodies there are hutches. Yet I hide this body there. I help this body to remain silent while I seek inside the seesaw a girl made of bones and nerves. Yet this body is not my body. It is made of storm of lava and larva and swelter and scepter and skeptic questions which punch me from within. From within, my tongue is entangled, welded behind my feet, convicted by the shooting wall. They blow away the wet, and then they leave me, and they leave only the sickle inside my throat. Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity, Tomica, to be guest in this reading organized by the PEN Croatia. And I'm happy to be with you and looking forward to your reading.
Thank you for joining. So thank you everyone from wherever you came. We have guests from India, from Mexico, from Colombia, of course, and then from Brazil. Yes, Brazil, our beloved country. So the next, I would like to ask Francesca Criceri to share some poetry with us. Thank you all for coming here for this PEN meeting on the theme of freedom of imagination. So Francesca, thank you for coming. You are living in Iceland, so you are not in Brazil now, but it is a little bit colder, of course.
Yeah.
Not like in Brazil. But you are now in Iceland, so you share our time. So it's evening for you too.
Tomica, I'm very happy to be here with you and other friends and meeting new friends and new poets. And I wanted to say that Croatia is also a country that is really in my heart, because I had the pleasure to be there and to read my poetry and to do this beautiful project also with Tomica. We published a small anthology of Brazilian poetry. And Priska is also one of the authors here, and she's also with us tonight. And it was a very very enchanting experience to hear my poetry read in Croatian. It was like a new world to me. And some of the poems I worked on the translation with Tomica when we were in Galicia together. So it was a very wonderful experience. Tomica, do you want me to read first in Portuguese or in English? What do you think?
Well, you can read this one that I have in Portuguese, so you can read it in Portuguese, then I can put it in Croatian, maybe.
Okay.
And you can read like 2 poems in English. That's how.
Okay. So I will start with this poem that I wrote in, I will read from the Croatian edition, but not in Croatian, of course. I'll read it in Portuguese. It also exists in Italian. And it talks about going through a long road to repatriate the soul. So it's not this one. This is the English one, but I'll read it later. É uma longa estrada repatriar a alma. Há que se fazer o silêncio para ouvir os dedos sobre o velho piano da ferrovia. É uma longa estrada repatriar a alma. A rota é na medula, descida íngreme ou subida sem estanque. Demolir para construir e não fugir do terror sem nome, de não ser contido, apanhado, compreendido. É preciso seguir adiante no fogo e sem ar. E se a dor perdurar, é preciso ser destemido para espelhar o rosto em outros olhos, distantes, como num espelho. And as Tomica said, I am now living in Iceland, so I feel even a step further isolated in the isolation because it's really far.
Sorry, Francesca. So maybe I cannot find this poem here, but I can read it from the book.
Okay.
That you read just. Yes. Vratiti dušu kući dug je put. Potrebna je tišina kako bi čule prste na starom kolodosnom klaviru. Dugo je cesta povratka duše. Put je u srži, sama je to strmina ili uspon bez zastajanja. Srušiti kako bi podizali, nikada bježati od neimenovanog užasa zato što nismo sadržani unutra, razumljivi. Treba nastaviti dalje u vatri bez daha, iako bol opstoji, treba biti neustrašiv, da ti se lice zrcali u očima drugoga, daleko kao u zrcalu.
Thank you, Tomica. And then I will read this one poem in English. It's a little bit longer, so it's like 2 poems. And I wrote it in Portuguese, but I also did the translation in English. So I think it's a poem that can stand by itself also in English. And it's a little bit about the experience of being in a kind of isolation that has to do with living in a country where I have I'm learning Icelandic, but it's a very difficult language. So it's this kind of isolation that is very difficult for somebody who lives with the writing, no? My tongue here is mute, or almost. It is only in silence, an intimate whisper, the outcome of translation. My tongue is an inverted flower, a word that means body, but also language, and I can't bridge it. When you bite a fig, its flesh and essence, it's like entering a garden of dead wasps. The tongue tasting the plant, its sweet bulge once waiting to be fertilized. What is this gesture that repeats itself even after 34 million years? When I enter into this language, its ancient essence, I bite into the stone memory inside me of language before the teeth, the borderless bulge of my primitive existence. It's not just the falling that we lose wings. One must leave them on the outside. It happens as we slither in through the funneled corridor, searching for food and perpetuation. As we penetrate the fig, we give up flying. In order to dig in and exit from the silent vessel, one must have strong jaws, fierce teeth, and minute eyes. One must know how to get around in the darkness. The mint sprout didn't die from being removed from the ground. It has been living in a vase. It has invented roots and new leaves. In my city, we wait for the frost to undo itself, as tongues wait for teething, to rub the crowns as they stick out from the gum. Be ready to bite. What lives through and under the white cloak. Our foreign bodies get ready as the wasp mother lays her eggs in the fig, mint roots searching for soil. Thank you, Tomica.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Francesca, very much. Thank you for reading your poems, and please stay with us and to hear Priska also later. And Luby unfortunately couldn't come, but maybe we can read one of her poems later in the end or something like this. And I would like to ask Marija, if you are here, Marija, of course, and then I will put your poetry in English on the screen. Just a second.
Greetings, everybody. Tomica, thank you for inviting us all to be here and to exchange our poetic experiences.
Thank you, Marija, for being with us. And you are living in Greece now, yes?
Yes, yes.
So yes, of course, we have Macedonia, Greece, Brazil.
Yes,
India,
and
for everything in one small room on the Zoom. So that's wonderful.
Yes, and I really felt this last one, the last poem. I really felt it that thing with language and somehow language exile even before the quarantine started. So it was very interesting experience, to be isolated from your language. I also live in isolation, from Greeks to I'm between two villages. So it's like triple isolation. And this is how concrete was made. And this is why I really felt the previous poem that the poet read, Francesca. Cementna. Moji prijatelji žive u prostorima između ormara i zida koje je nemoguće dosegnuti. Koliko god istezala ruke, paučinasta šutnja ulazi u moja usta. Moji su prijatelji tamna tišina kreća. Kažem joj, odaberi okvir za sliku i promoli kroz njegovo prazno tijelo svoje tjeme, mekano korijenje kose do koje sunce ne dopire, posuto brašnom. Iskradi se iz njegove kuhinje ili skoči kroz prozor sa 10. kata. Dočekat ćete čestice mogućnosti kao pepeljasto cvijeće kvartovskog parka. Tvoje oči, simboli za prepune, otežale grudi, obješene od očevog pogleda, konjskog mlijeka i poklona koji su izostali s tvoje kože umjesto muđevih okrutnih usana. Njegove riječi skupljaju se u tvom pupku, preko trbuha penju se do vrata, te su riječi čempre se s groblja i odjednom umjesto prašine ti si ono što visi s lustera. Moji su prijatelji moji jer nisu ničiji, jedino sebe slušaju, sebe dodiruju i samo sa sobom plaču. Moj prijatelj je noga stola čija se špranja zapada u mesu, kaže prsta pri selidbi. Moj prijatelj, mala plastična kugla ispunjena smeđom tekućinom. Moj prijatelj, kovrčava dlaka u odvodu njezinog grla. Kaže joj, skupa smo stvarali granice da možemo zajedno brisati namještaj. Kaže mu, lako je raspasti se, teško je vilicom nabosti gračak. Moji su prijatelji prve tuge koje sam mogla istinski voljeti. Oni će prvi donijeti odluke i jedini ih dosljedno provesti. Moji su prijatelji visoke zgrade koje se rukama drže za temelje. Moji su prijatelji avion s cementnim nogama. Pravilne linije. Žuta tromost dolaska, plodova drveća, jabuka, krušaka, izniknula je iz kamena ukopanog kao peta, isplivala iz vode. Svoje voće žuto i pojavljuje se samo u naznakama. Debljina podneva prilazi nam kao pitomi vlak, redovito, s blagim odstupanjima i upozorava nas da moramo biti oprezni, blago nasmješeni, čiste površine i metalnog zagrijanog srca, spremni da motikom zatučemo bjeloučke i u pretrazi prevrnemo svaki kamen. Ona ima vatrostalne ruke, skriva ih u pečnici kao zmija noge, isteže vrat, jeme i bradu, slijedeći pravilne linije, prati na nebu male ožiljke, ispuštene iz stražnjice aviona. Ne može se na mene opeći, ne može mi saznati ime. Zjenice su nam fiksirane, uokvirene trepavicama koje kalibriraju kao pupoljci, pupoljci svibanjski, pogledom ispraćaju noge i glave. Tako sam sretna što te imam. Ukrala si dio auta samo da ga ne može niko voziti i sad auto stopiraš, misliš što li mi je sve to trebalo. Travnati ti jezik skriva laži, slatke ljetne preinake kako bi me više voljela. Kad u ustima topiš moje ime, zaklela bi se da je to neko drugo ime. Kad me ustima ljubiš obraz, zaklela bi se da to nije moj obraz. Fotografija patke. Fotografirala sam patku koja stoji na drvenom trupcu, da ti pokažem patku i trupac, ili da kažem bila je patka. Ostatak dana nanosim šminku na lice, pa gledam u sebe iz daljine dok se ne prepoznam i onda se mahnem. Kažem si dobar dan. Kad se dovršim, kažem ovo su usta ili ovakva usta i uronim usne u sjemenke velikog nara i izreknem nar, bio je nar, ovakav nar i onda ga progutam. Pojavljujem se samo za sebe i te izvedbe prate pljuskovi skakavaca iz rikavaca s niskog neba krošanja. Oni su zapravo isto stvorenje, samo što je jedan davno izgubio plač kad ga je zakopao u grudi zemlje da ga sačuva i onda zaboravio. Zeleno na očima, crveno na ustima, drugi je zadržao u sebi svoj plač i nabavio reket za badminton. Reket nalik na onaj kojim smo u djetinjstvu udarali hruštove koji lete i neki su ih, kad ih sruče na pod, još polovili rubom, kriveći tako obruče reketa i trgajući njegove žice, ali nikako ne ja. Patka je jutros jela nar. Ili patka je jučer snijela taj nar. Bila je crvena, crvenog kljuna i crvenog repa. Bila je zelena, kao skakavac, zrikavac. Crvena i zelena, kao meso koje sjedi na travi. Dan je standardan, kao rane na koljenima, laktovima, listovima i bedrima djevojčica koji igraju nogomet u minskom polju, u travi višoj od njihovog struga.
Thank you, Maria, for sharing your poetry with us and to be here with us from Greece. And I would like to call George Mario Angel Quintero, our old friend from Croatian pen. He was here for a festival recently, and he has a book published also in Croatia. So and then Mario embodies both America's North and South and even Central America. So he spent like 20 years in North America, 20 years of his youth, and he lives now in Medellin, in Colombia. And then that's how we will read and listen to his poetry. It will be Spanish and English. Best of the Spanish and English in his poetry will appear. Thank you, Mario, for joining.
No, Tomica, thank you so much. for having invited me to this reading. It's a beautiful group, a wonderful fraternity together of people from all over the world. I loved my time in Zagreb. There's this wonderful book that you put out of my poetry, some of it translated into Croatian, and I felt very at home when I was in Croatia. And now in this group with Croatian friends and somebody from India that have also been very nice to me. The Indian magazines have been nice to me, and of course my Brazilian brothers to see and sisters, to see them here makes me very happy. So I'm going to read one poem. It's a little bit long, not too long, but what I'm going to do is read in the original Spanish and in English. And I'm going to be reading alternating stanzas. Para mis amigos en español, bienvenidos. Esta oportunidad me llena a mí de agrado, de felicidad, ver a esta cofradía de gente de todas las partes del mundo, mis hermanos, mis hermanas, muchos. Y voy a leer un poema largo, no muy largo, pero y cada estrofa, voy a leer la estrofa original en español y después la traducción que le hice al inglés. Esto es una defensa de la libertad de la imaginación, es un apocalipsis que me he imaginado. No sé si creo en semejantes cosas, pero mi imaginación sí. Y es un apocalipsis en que el verde, en que la vida se retoma el planeta en que vivimos. So what I just said was, as a defense of the freedom of the imagination, I'm going to read a poem about an apocalypse. And it's not, I don't know if I necessarily believe in such things, but my imagination does. And so it is an imagined apocalypse where nature, where life takes back the planet. And it's called Fin in Verde, End in Green. Horrible como llegó la vida, en hongos masivos de vapor, olorosa y amarilla, su marea se avecina en olas desde la distancia, mientras sobre la playa caen cenizas desde esqueletos de edificaciones calcinadas, aquí a la orilla de este mar de polen. Horrible how life came in massive mushrooms of steam, smelly and yellow. Its tide comes closer in waves from the distance, while on the beach ashes fall from the skeletons of charred constructions, here at the shore of this sea of pollen. En vez de nubes, cadenas de semillas gigantescas estallan en manchas flotantes que atraviesan el calor. En esta instancia, en el giro primaveral, hojas traducen la luz y levantan las sortijas de tallo que abrazan y esmaltan los pilares de un cielo en espiral. Instead of clouds, chains of gigantic seeds explode in floating stains that cross the heat. In this instance, in the vernal turning, leaves translate the light and lift the curling stems that embrace and enamel the pillars of a spiral sky. En una llovizna tibia cae el sudor sobre vitrinas vacías en pasajes que nunca se estrenaron. Crecer ejerce presión por fuera y por dentro. Cada cráneo es un botón, florece y ya abierto se colora. The sweat falls as a warm drizzle on empty shop windows in alleys that were never used. Growing exerts pressure from without and from within. Each cranium is a bud. It flowers, and once open, it takes on color. Cuando como un anciano lento y pesado, Las aguas fétidas escalan las alturas paso a paso. Sus superficies ya barbudas de tanta copulación y roce embadurnan los riscos con su verdete. Like a codger, slow and heavy, the fetid waters climb the heights step by step. Their surfaces now bearded from such copulation and rubbing, they smear the cliffs with their patina. Lo mío no es nada, un rostro asomado momentáneamente, mientras el agua, ese espejo repleto, sube hacia el cielo, hasta que los dos firmamentos se besan, y yo, que sentía la luz caer sobre mí, ¿qué respiraré de ese estruendo? ¿Qué será de un loto más al aplastarse contra una estrella? My bit is nothing. A face peering out for a moment while the water, that brimming mirror, rises toward the sky until the two firmaments kiss. And I, that felt the light fall upon me, what will I breathe in of that clamor? What will happen to yet another lotus as it is crushed against a star? Pero sin pausa ni suspiro, los soles se empapan y los planetas se disuelven, but without a pause or a sigh, suns are drenched and planets dissolved. Luego el drenaje, las islas que amortiguan como esponjas, chorrean su peso por debajo hacia una gula abierta y oscura. Then the draining, the islands that cushion like sponges, trickle their weight out their bottoms toward gluttony, open and dark. Hablemos entre nos, entre desechos orgánicos. Let's keep this between us, we bits of organic waste. La sílaba que tapa infecta de urbe a los sépalos por los cuales ventea la luz. The syllable which covers infects the calluses with metropolis. The light blows through them. Comunicarse es compartir fiebre. To communicate is to share fever. El despliegue de hojas son cielos, cubre danzas de espigas trenzadas en roscas. Estas iluminan las costillas palpitantes alrededor de cada semilla. Giran amarillas entre rayos que inuncian en cascadas lúcidas como destellar hasta sus bocas. Como destellar hasta sus bocas. The unfolding of leaves that are skies covers the dances of sprigs braided in wreaths. These illuminate palpitating ribs around each seed. The spin, yellow, between bolts of lightning that enunciate in lucid cascades how to sparkle even to their mouths. Crecer es sugerir. To grow is to suggest. Una estrellada noche encerrada en un capullo, vainas maracan en el agua que sube, estambres atrapados en las coronas de sus chozas buscan cómo punzar el tejido de sus techos silenciosos. Las palabras traspasan y cada habitación brota espinas. A star-struck night, sealed in a bud, husks rattle, and the water rises. Trapped stamens in the crowns of their huts look to puncture the thatching of their silent ceilings. Words pierce through, and each habitation sprouts thorns. ¿Cómo aferrarse a piedra inconclusa? But how to cling to such inconclusive rock? Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, George, for your wonderful reading and for being here with us from Colombia. So how to start a story about a pen that will next year have 100 years, if not to start it with the poets, being poets, the first letter in the alphabet of pen, poetesses, and novelists, and others. So I would like to read one poem because Lubi, Lubi Prates from Brazil, who would be now reading. She was not able to be here with us, but I will put her poem on share screen, and I will read this poem in Croatian, non foium cruzeiro. It will be like here in Portuguese, and I will read in Croatian. Nije bilo krstarenje. Svoje ime i svoj jezik, svoje isprave, svoju adresu, svoj turban i svoje molitve, svoja sjećanja na jela i bubnjeve, izgubila sam na brodu koji me preveo preko Atlantika. Eto, ja se nadam da ćemo Lubi Prates u jednom drugom Zoomu opet sresti vidjeti ovdje i da će čitati s nama. Ja bih sada pozvao našu Ivanu Bodrožić iz Zagreba. Ivana Bodrožić is acclaimed novelist, internationally acclaimed novelist. She is very successful. She has been published in many countries, her novels, of course, but she started with poetry, and she wrote more poetry books recently. One was translated to English, so she will be here. Of course, also she is one of her novels, Hotel Zagorje, was staged in theater also, so she is a writer and artist and author of many talents. And what she writes is like something that is in the spirit of pen. So it is. I'm very grateful to her for sharing her time with us and to read some of her poems in English. So thank you, Ivana. Oh, sorry, Ivana. You are mute.
Okay, good evening from me. I hope you hear me now. I will read few poems from my latest poetry book, In a Sentimental Mood, which is published in English in USA, Portland, May. I will read 3 poems. I'm pregnant with a poem, but I haven't told anyone. At night, I have cramps in my calves. In the morning, I lie long in bed because I know as soon as I get up, I will be pressing my hands over my mouth. I lock myself in the bathroom. I observe myself in the mirror, pull in my stomach, looking for signs in the face of my eyes. It's miraculous how they become softer, yet more pronounced. My hair is shiny, glinting with nonsense. As I let it fall down my back, allowing it to finally grow long. I zip up my pants, leaving the top button unbuttoned, for she is already taking shape, growing a backbone. Her heart has already been beating for a long time. I don't know if she will have my dreamy eyes or your almighty hands. A melon, it will be a boy. A watermelon, it will be a girl. I will love her, for she is hurting me so beautifully inside, although everyone will be disgusted by her. Once it becomes clear how round I have become. Nevertheless, it is the way of the world, and no one can change it. For no sooner that we met, I simply knew this would happen for us. The second one. They're all trying to talk sense into everyone. Don't climb onto my bed. Don't open my drawer. Answer me when I ask. Don't drink from my glass and don't lean on me. Your breath smells nasty. So don't you climb onto mine either. Mommy told me I could, but not you. You're little. Don't rub me like that, it hurts. Don't hold the shower head up high, everything's all wet. Leave the car in gear. Turn the wheel carefully. Sweep up the crumbs, ants will come. Empty the pocket when you put things in the laundry. Don't fall asleep fast. You'll ruin everything. Don't cry. Not worth it. Don't overdo the oil. Get undressed just one more time, then explain. I said, this is not for you. Don't try and make me laugh. Don't fold the sleeve when you iron. Don't worry about me. Go ahead and die from worry. Not that way. This way, like this and like this. I told you, no, I was telling you, I'm saying, I'm telling you. When you are, never again will I repeat. Nobody, but nobody understands anyone else. And the last one, which is called My One and Only. I fear I'll stop fearing. For if I stop fearing, even for just an instant, I fear something will happen, and not that which I fear the most, but something else, really fearsome. So, for as long as I fear, I'm safe. I'm horribly afraid, thought I know there is no fear. Trembling in the night is just a small price I pay, so I wouldn't fear. What is the most fearsome, the worst thing ever, the moment that awaits me? If I let out a sight of relief, forget I'm in a state of fear, and smile naively at someone in the passing, thus making happen what I feared the most. That's why I'm awake and fearful, peaceful and secure. And I caress it, nurture it, soothe it, so it can grow big and strong, to guard me always, be by my side, my one and only, my fear. Something which is opposite from the freedom, but nevertheless, we need to talk about the fear so we can talk about the freedom.
Okay, thank you very much, and please stay with us. We will hear later from our president, Jennifer Clement, also a poet and internationally acclaimed novelist, and about our pen, about our manifesto that she charted, and other manifestos that she charted, and about some of our recent activities in the world, like in Mexico and everywhere. So, like for now, Stephen Fowler is, as I see, not here this moment with us. Maybe he was unable to attend. So I will ask Marina Katinić from Zagreb, poet, awarded poet, and she will, if I'm not mistaken, she will read 2 poems in English and 1 in Croatian. So we'll put the last one on screen for you to understand.
Thank you, Tomica. Hello, everyone. It's a great joy and honor for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to read first 2 poems in English and the third one in Croatian. They've all been written in this period of the crisis caused by the coronavirus. So yeah, well, it's a kind of living the lockdown and the period of restriction and so many limitations to all of us. The first one is a love poem, which also speaks of freedom in a way. Finally, I can share clouds. I had a sky of my own. I would fetch cloud balls and put them into a glass and sprinkle them with syrup. I would always eat them all by myself. The white ambrosia sufficed for 7 lifetimes. And the entire world opening its doors to me, trams obediently stretching their faces into a smile at a finger press. Avenues pleasurably offering their bosoms to that ant-like bicycle. Runways of rivers and bridges had a secret code for me. Ascent tickets falling out of the machine. Now I can finally share the clouds, catch them from the sky with 2 glasses. Like a rupture in a coffee grain, the world has split. its warm scent waking up someone else as well. The orb of the world is a marked bagel, half for me, half for you. Dip it into the syrup under the floating white isles of clouds, there in the glass. That's the first one. And the second one is a little bit ironic. It's strongly inspired by this corona crisis. A man who does not lock the door. A man who does not lock the door might be the unhappiest of all men, as things and dreams can always open the door by themselves and walk away. A man who does not lock the door might be the happiest of all, since anyone can enter his place. And he might be neither happier nor unhappier than others, but he just keeps forgetting the keys, or he just keeps forgetting to lock the box called body, suitcase, room, cabinet, boat, attic, basement, treasure chest, pencil case, or flat. Or he just forgets that time slips away through the unlocked door. The time evaporates, leaving us alone, turned into steam. A man who does not lock the door still must be unhappy, as the time makes to run him away, and the time is money, and money is everything else. Or he might be secretly happy. Above all, he will not run out of time. There is plenty of time that oozes so slowly through the keyhole. Or he has managed to tame the time so it won't leave. Even if he leaves the door unlocked, if times go away like a cat, it will come back. A man who does not lock the door must be the happiest of all, for there is nothing to be stolen from him. And the third one I'm going to read, I'll do it in Croatian, is a poem inspired by the earthquake which struck Zagreb in March. Apart from this coronavirus pandemic, we had a rather strong earthquake, and a little bit like the poem George read to us, it's about the triumph of nature above man, above mankind. It's called Occasional Song. Prigodna pjesma. Kad se zemlja zatrese, s oblaka se strese snijeg. Zaljuljaju se police, iz korica knjiga spadnu slova. I čovjek se tada potrese. Nekome ispadne kosa, nekome zubi, a nekome riječi iz usta. Netko se sav raspadne od potresa. Otpadne mu glava, a iz nje se prospe zemlja. A zemlja su nataložena slova, već postala mrak. I nova slova iz njih niknu i narastu i pomamno se šire kao virus. I ulice ostavljene skupljačima boca jednom dozore za žetvu. Tada svi izađu i beru riječi. Gutaju ih i izbacuju unatrag, mahnito ih bacaju uvis kao rižu na mladence. Sve dok se ponovo zemlja ne zatrese i usta na nogama ne pobjegnu u mrak. Mi smo jednodnevne ličinke na sajmu slova. Što si progutao, takva će ti biti krila. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you everyone who is here still with us. We are on the 2/3 of the readings. We have more like 5 wonderful poets that are here with us. Priska, Luljeta, Ponce de Moraes from Brazil, Sonja, of course, from Zagreb, and Jennifer. So I will ask Priska Agustoni, so from Brazil. You are here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello. So thank you.
Translator and poet, born in Lugano in Switzerland, but he lives in Brazil. So.
Yes, thank you, Tomica, for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here to know so many people writing poems, and I'm very happy to be in this anthology. And even if I have never been to Croatia, it's another way to be there when someone decides to translate your poems. So it's very, very happy. I'm very happy to be with you in this moment. As you said, I'm a Swiss. I was born in Switzerland, so I share with many like you the experience of living between languages, and and I live in Brazil since many years, so I write in very different languages. Now I will read 3 poems that are in this book. 2 of them I will read them in English and 1 in Portuguese. Okay, I will start reading in English. And this English poem is translated by an American translator who his name is Lleshanaku. Okay. The yellow house has 2 dogs. In the yellow house there were 2 dogs. They died, the 2, of some canine death, or by human hands, one after the other, in the space of a week. From then on, we have looked at everyone with an animal air. The question that does not stop is who it will be now, the next one, if my dog, if yours, if the neighbors, or if I will be the next one to fall, of some death, canine or human. I've written this poem in Portuguese and in Italian as well. Then I will read up. I don't know if Tomica will share the Croatian translation, but it's in the book.
Yes, easier for me is to read it from the book. So it will be from the page 12 to 15, yes? Is it?
12, 13, yes. Yes. I read before in Portuguese and then you read in Croatian, okay?
Yes, wonderful.
Ok. A dor está no sapato, revirado, à espera do pé. Não se deixam sapatos revirados. Isso não se deve fazer. Não mesmo. De cabeça para baixo, como coisas sepultadas, mudas raízes à flor do chão, em pleno abandono. Onde o pé disperso? Onde a mesa pronta? O sorriso de ontem, que abana no escuro de hoje e coalha o leite no amanhã. Onde? Onde? O vermelho da echarpe, suspenso no branco da parede, que corta em 2 o dia. O antes, o vazio, o depois. O dia depois. Onde? Onde? O abandono cava sendas indizíveis, um sapato à espera. Ok?
Bolje u cipeli, izokrenutoj u očekivanju stopala. Ne ostavljaju se izokrenute cipele, to se ne radi, doista ne. Izvrnuto naglavce poput zakopanih predmeta, nijemog korijenja na površine poda, potpuno napuštenog, gdje je raspršeno stopalo, gdje je postavljen stol, jučerašnji osmijeh koji se trese u tmini, danas izgrušava mlijeko ujutru, gdje? Gdje? Crvenilo marame nadvija se nad bjelinom zida, koji presjeca napola dan, ono prije, prazninu, ono poslije. Dan poslije. Gdje? Gdje? Napuštenost dubi neizrecive staze, u cipeli koja čeka.
Beautiful. And one last poem in English. These three poems, they are not talking about freedom, but they talk about a house, living in a house where you have also other shadows and souls living with you. A last poem in English. While they grope laces in brass in the third drawer, I feel them go down, eager, hands along the body, until it goes out. Make yourself comfortable and throw me to the ground, a doll whose spring broke. Thank you.
Thank you. So Priska and Francesca too, they are both translators. Francesca translated Elena Ferrante, yes, and of course, and Ungaretti and so on. So you share something in common, that you are Brazilians, but you are also Italians. You share the Italian language too, and sometimes you write in Italian. So it's a richness of poetry that can be seen in your work. And so I would
like Nataša as well.
Of course.
Yes, I'm the translator of Priska and Tiago in language, so I translated them in Macedonian. And Priska as well translated my poems in Brazilian, so it's a nice gathering of poets and translators.
Nice, it's a wonderful community of poets and translators. So we have here Luljeta Lleshanaku from Tirana, Albania. Luljeta, are you here? Yes, thank you. She is an awarded poet and a professor. I cannot hear you now. You have to unmute. But
okay.
Luljeta was a guest of Gora Spring Festival a few years ago, and of poetry manifestations too. She has some books published also in English, like a visit to a clockmaker, yes, and so on. You work at university in Tirana, is it so?
I work in Institute of Study the Crimes of Communism in Albania, and I teach in film school, film university, multimedia.
Thank you for being here now, and I would like you to read your poetry. You prepared two poems in English, and one you will read in Albanian. You told me so. Yes.
The third one is in Albanian.
Okay, so we can hear this language.
And first, thank you for joining us in this time of cholera. It's a beautiful evening, and nice to meet each of you, even virtually. Hopefully, we'll meet you physically in the future. So let's start. It was kind of difficult to find the right poems which fit to the topic of this reading, but I tried something. The first one is called Via Politica, which is an invented, term, and it's about what it means to live as a political family, under isolation and in communist persecution, and how the memory, what is the role of memory in such conditions? So I read in English. I don't know if you'll show anything on the screen. Is that possible?
I can show.
Okay. Via Politica. I grew up in a big family where weakness and expressions of joy deserved punishment. And I was raised on the Via Politica with the grease of yesterday's glories, a thick grease collected under Arctic skies. I was lit up. My notebooks, my hair, my heart reeked of smoke. That's when we saw each other clearly, or rather, what remained of us, damaged like lottery numbers, scratched away with a blade. How different we were. Those with round faces were riotous. Those with narrow faces were cautious. One listened secretly to Puccini, another to silence. The music's music. The oldest one declaimed monologues inside a 10 by 10 foot cell he had built for himself. And the mysterious ones simply had diabetes. But how similar we were in severe circumstances, alarmed like a flock of magpies, that the smallest stone sends into the sky toward the mouth of the abyss. Then it became obvious there wasn't enough space for everyone. We separated. Some went on living via verbum, telling of what they knew, what they witnessed, and so, through their narrative, creating their own Greece. The others crossed over the ocean, and those in particular who went farthest away never speak of their unknowing history or wretched survival, burning it in the darkest crevices of their being. Unfortunately, as with perfume, its scent lingers there for much, much longer. The second poem, called named Unknown, The Unknown, it's about the names and the mysterious connection, our mysterious connection with them. The unknown. When a child is born, we name it after an ancestor. And so the recycling continues, not out of nostalgia, but from our fear of the unknown. With a suitcase full of clothes, a few icons, a knife with a shiny blade, the immigrant brought along names of places he came from. And the places he claimed, he named New Jersey, New Mexico, Jericho, New York, and Manchester. The same condition for the unknown above us. We named planets and stars after capricious, vengeful gods. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Centaur, as if making a shield against the cosmos. Names leap ahead like hunting hounds, with the belief they clear the road of the journey's unexpected obstructions. And we call destiny our common unknown, a genderless, unconjugated, unspecified name. Its authority hangs on one shoulder like the tunic of a Roman senator, leaving only one arm bare and free.
Okay.
No, it's not this one, it's another one. The children of morality.
Yes.
The second draft.
Okay. This one.
Yes, thank you. Fëmijët e moralit ishin europianët parët që mësuan indianëve turpit, duke filluar nga mbulimi i pjesëve intime. Popujt të tjerë kanë qenë më me fat. Morali u ka ardhur i gatshëm nga lart, i shkruar në pllaka guri. Atje ku unë jam rritur, morali kishte forë, trup dhe emër. Një Kain, një Maria Magdalene pa penduar, një Ruth Dalil Arashel. Morali tregoi lehtësisht me gishtë me boj një 7 vjeçari. Shembujt për kryer vesi e virtyti. Atje ku koha i lëshon vezën mbi moçal. Kështu pra, mësimet e para të moralit i mora pa i përtypur, si shuruk për koll. Çdo gjë tjetër ishte më abstrakte në një çatit për koll. Dhe çuditërisht, ata s'të zhgënjenin as në brezninë e dytë. Pacarësit e tyre ishin një tjetër Kain, një tjetër Ruth, një tjetër Maria Magdalene, që nuk rriteshin. Klisheja ishte njëkohësisht rreziku dhe mbrojtja për ta, si Debora e thatë për iglot eskimeze. Tani di shumë më tepër për moralin, madje mund të jem një moraliste, me gishin tregues si pjesë të retorikës, por pa referencë. Ç'u bë me ta? Një derë u hap krejt pa dashje, drita qau me forcë. Dhe si në një laborator filmi, ajo shkërmoqi portretet e tyre në bromid argjendi, që dikur mund të kenë qenë prej mishi i kocke. Thank you.
Thank you, Luljeta, and we heard you're reading in Albanian. It's also very nice to hear. And your family was a victim of Enver Hoxha regime, and so you were here also one time in Zagreb for the Sudjelovali festival of the pen program. So you spoke about it and so on, and that's it. It is nice to have you here with us, and please stay here also until our last readings. I will now call from Rio de Janeiro. So it's midday. It's midday in Rio de Janeiro. Tiago Ponce de Moraes, poet, enthusiast of poetry. He organizes and festivals and magazines, and also he's a professor. He's a teacher. He was sometime teacher in Petropolis, and now he returned back home to his native city, yes, to Rio de Janeiro. So thank you for being here with us, Tiago, and please tell us what you will read.
Hello, good afternoon from Rio de Janeiro. I know for some people it's already good evening, so I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you, Tomica, for your kind invitation, for your always kind words. I'm very, very happy to be here with several friends from other gatherings and knowing new voices, new poets. I'm very happy to give this year, this very hard year, this beautiful closure. I'm going to read poems, some from this anthology here called Glory Box, who was translated by a poet friend of mine who is a British poet and translated some of my poems for this project. And also I would like to read one poem from our anthology that was launched in Croatia, in Zagreb, recently. And I would ask you, Tomica, if you can read one of the poems in Croatian, then I think it's going to be nice.
Of course.
The one I chose to read from this anthology is the one which is in the page 60, Paralaxe no Jardim Abstrato de Crane. The Croatian version is in 61.
Of course.
Okay. So in Portuguese first, then I would like to ask you to read in Croatian. Thank you.
Of course.
Paralaxe no Jardim Abstrato de Crane. Existirá o poema, embora não tenhas memória, ou medo, ou esperança, para além de sombras e relva a teus pés. Ou o amor e a morte em que copas pousem, como pássaros em galhos do amanhecer. Ou veias porque chegue a seiva dos dias e dias esquecidos nas raízes atrozes da agonia. Ou albatrozes sobre um oceano em que não és, mas sonhas. Não há razão. Mais perto do azul fugaz, respiras ciano. Desejos, destinos.
Paralaksa u apstraktnom vrtu Harta Crane. Pjesma će postojati iako nemaš memoriju, ni strah, ni nadu. Iza sjena i trave pod tvojim nogama. Ili u ljubavi i smrti gdje krošnje drveća počivaju poput ptica na granama zore. Ili tkiva kroz koje sokovi dana i zaboravljenih dana dolaze u strašnim korijenima agonije. Ili albatrosa nad oceanom u kojem niste, ali sanjate. Nema razloga. U blizini izbjeljivača udišete cijan. Želje, odredišta.
Thank you. I will read some more poems, both in Portuguese and in English. Okay, they are all very short poems, so I will read some to fulfill my time. These poems I'm gonna read, they don't have titles, so they just start, okay? A beleza que tens, não a que dás, roça a eternidade nos meus olhos. Sob as árvores, da sombra que a natureza concede, sinto os teus dedos leves repousarem em minha nuca. Teus lábios breves, a tua pele, a minha voz dispersam, instantes da tarde. Sobre meu peito deitada lanças tua sombra, teus cabelos, a beleza que tens é efêmera, e me basta. The beauty within you, not the one you create, laps against eternity in my eyes. Under the trees, in the shade nature provides, I feel your fingers lightly resting on my neck. Your fleeting lips, your skin, make my voice diffuse. Moments of an afternoon. Lying over my chest, you cast your shadow, your hair. The beauty within you is ephemeral, is all I need. Retorno a ti pelo indecifrável lastro das têmporas. Voz de ninguém outra vez, poços. Penso adivinhar os teus passos em maio. Não há pressa nem estrelas no que ouço. Só os longes dormem aqui. Lanço minha corda ao fundo e peço qualquer imagem nesta noite. A corda não retorna nada. Passas. I return to you through the dense cipher of my temples. No one's speaking once again, a deep well. I think of guessing your steps in May. There's no rush or stars that I can hear. Only the far off sleep here. I throw my rope down and beg for any image tonight. The rope returns nothing. You depart. One more here. This one has title, it's called Andrômeda. Não há razão, há quando muito, estrelas, saudades. Abres um livro. Quantas constelações te não acolhem? Com teus cabelos de ouro desejas que seja esta morada que procuras. A palavra que existe, mas escorre pelas mãos. Tens uma recordação apenas quando luz e cega para que venham. Guardas qualquer lembrança feito uma cor, ainda que morta, e a ela segues com o fogo fato de tua voz. Nem as mais brilhantes estrelas, nem as mais vorazes saudades, tudo falta, amor, tempo, restam teus cabelos de cinza, com que te inclinas sobre a vida, tornando a face para os céus. Andrômeda. There is no reason. At most, there are stars, longings. You open a book. How many constellations will not take you in? With your golden hair, you desire that this will be the home you're searching for, the word that exists, but slips through your fingers. You have just one recollection when it gleams, and it blinds for them to come. Any memory you keep as a color, even when dead, and follow it with the will-o'-the-wisp of your voice. Not even the brightest stars, not even the hungriest longings. All is lack, love, time. There remains your ashen hair that you lean over your life with, turning your face to the sky. And to close, a very, very short poem, one-line poem. Vida. É engraçado que existam pessoas que vivem para isso. Life. It is funny there are people who live for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiago. Thank you. You were wonderful. And thank you for joining our Zoom Freedom of Imagination of PEN International. Idea was PEN International Manifesto. And I think for the poetry reading now in these circumstances, it is better we can have it in Zoom. We are more free. We don't wear masks on Zoom, at least. So, no, if we had somewhere else, we had to wear masks. So that is something. It is good with us here that we can be without the masks. Sonja, thank you for being patient. Thank you for being here with us. And Sonja is a poet from Zagreb here. She wrote many books. Some of them were illustrated. She was awarded many times for her poetry work. And Sonja, please, can you share with us your poems? I will place on screen English translations from your 3 poems that you will read. Just a second. Just a second. Screen 1, screen 2. I will just place it here. Sonja. Okay. Okay, I found it here. Okay, so here are the English translations.
Kuda i kamo? Čovjek sam i ne znam potrajati. Kao zvuk samoće, krilce, lako me ščepat, baš kad uzlječem, baš kad me pitaš kuda putujem. A otputujem i nikome ništa, sve ravno do neba, do crte pod kojom se zbraja, kao da sam uzela išta. Jer vječno je žlica podignuta, vječno su usta razjapljena. And now the second one, the triumph of mediocrity. At night, she cools down her clothes in the ice-cold water. Her cheekbones are splashed by cold waves. She loves her own righteousness, likes misfortune, needles pinned into cold glances, into men as beautiful as women, into a chirp, a weak cry for help. And she has nowhere to, nor which way to go. Her eyes gather more light. She would take only a flash, a jump from nothing to something, even if only as hello or right away goodbye. She lives or her lives simultaneously in honorable and dishonorable times, and has only herself to walk with, and her vision is still clear and plain. She takes everything she needs from it. The second one, figures of accumulation. There is no time for long glances. In a flash, you give away yourself and yourself and yourself, always standing with others in the whirlpool of sunshine. What do they miss, you wonder? They already have everything and cannot be given it. Already ordered, it arrived and is postponed. Accounts are being settled. Not known where from and who gets how much, but you would want the largest bit. If you complain, hardly a word too much, because you don't get anything for it, except quick glances, and you like each of them. Thanks.
Tomica, you're without your mouth mute.
Sorry. So thank you, Sonja, for sharing your poetry with us. And now for the end of our journey to the pen poetry of freedom or freedom of imagination roundup, I will ask Jennifer Clement, poet, writer, president of PEN International, to share her poetry with us, and of course to stay with us a little bit longer and to tell us about the Freedom of Imagination Manifesto that she charted, and like many things, other things like a woman manifesto that she did, and and tell us something about the recent pen activities. But first, let's hear you, Jennifer, your poems. I think you will read 2 or 3 poems of yours in English, two poems in English and 1 in Spanish, and I will put Croatian translation. Is it okay?
Wait. What are we reading? Now I'm completely confused.
So you read 3 of your poems.
Sorry, there have been these exchanges of poems and I'm confused now. Which poems? The Einstein poem that you just translated?
Einstein poem, yes. I thought maybe you can read this in Spanish because I have the Croatian. I have the Croatian translation.
No, I only have it in. I don't have it here in Spanish.
Okay, then I will put it. You read it in English.
But the Einstein poem. The Einstein poem.
Yes, the Einstein poem, and then later 2 more. So like I don't know how many. Okay.
Or 1 more. So I just want to say, first of all, it's really lovely to be here with all of you. I'm sorry I was a little bit late. Thank you to Croatian Pen and thank you, Tomica, for inviting me to be a part of this. Nataša said she felt like she didn't belong anywhere. And I have the opposite thing. I feel like I belong everywhere. So this poem, just to set it up a little bit. Apparently Einstein had a daughter, which was put up for adoption. And then, of course, came the Second World War, probably adopted by a Jewish family, and she was probably killed in an extermination camp. She was never found. So this poem is about that. Einstein thinks about the daughter he put up for adoption and then could never find. Perhaps she uses her fingers like a compass, making circles in the dirt. Perhaps she cuts her hand in the dark day, splitting an atom in the middle of her palm. Particles of light curve through glass empty windows. Numbers tattooed on her wrist are blue equations, and the knots in the barbed wire look like stars. He hugs his violin, small body of wood.
Thank you.
So I'll stay on the Einstein theme. So just briefly, when relativity was discovered, this happened thanks to an eclipse on the west coast of Africa in 1919. And basically, in very simple language, light curves, light moves, and the scientists and astronomers would see that the stars were not where they thought they should be. And everybody was very shocked that Einstein didn't go to the eclipse and stayed home. So it's called Far from the Smoked Glass, because of course, to look at the eclipse, you have to look through smoked glass, so you don't hurt your eyes. Far from the smoked glass. With his sweater inside out in the closed light of the room, far from the smoked glass, far from the domino numbers and wooden telescopes, Einstein waited. He stirred the tea bright, and as midday drew the dark, as African stars pulled out of orbit, at the young eclipsed minute, he felt the soft lamplight bend around his shoulder like an arm. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You will read 1 more, no?
Okay, I'll read 1 more. So going to the imagination, one of the lines in the Imagination Manifesto is that the imagination should be as free as dreams. So I've written a lot of poems about dreams, but the first one is sort of I guess a recognition of A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. And I don't know how well you remember your Shakespeare, but when the lovers go into the wood, both the women love Lysander, then Puck puts the juice of the flowers in the eyes. And when they walk out of the wood, Demetrius loves Helena and Lysander loves Hermia. So what does that tell us? Puck did not clean Demetrius's eyes. So Demetrius is always in the dream. So anyway, this is a fun poem, I think. And I hope this has happened to all of you, but it's when you have an erotic dream about somebody and you bump into them the next day and you're like, so it's about that. Midsummer. In my dream, you had me locked in your jaws, taken by the neck. You said, because in my dreams you spoke, I smelled of the plow and scythe, the metal rest-rud blade of a gin trap. You tasted my neck, my fur, the soft fur around my paws and white scut, the sleek long ears, loin and leg. You slit open my belly and looked into my body and touched what was not for touch, what was not for the light, even the light of dreams. In the adulterous dream we fit. I wore your shoes and gloves. You wrapped my blouse around your neck. Your blue tie knotted at my wrist. Our buttons buttoned and unbuttoned till daybreak, till I am the one left, like Demetrius. Puck never cleaned his eyes, to walk out of the wood, still in the dream and forever. When I meet you on Monday or Tuesday, I say, good day, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, mister. And you smile and shake my hand and do not know of the milk you licked off my fingers, fingers dipped in the milk of bed linen. So that's Midsummer.
Thank you, Jennifer, for being here with us. And of course, you wrote that imagination has to be free as dreams. So can you share with us something about your manifest, of course, but also the Women's Manifesto, and also the 100 years book and some recent activities of PEN International that happened lately?
Okay, my internet is a little unstable, so I hope you'll hear me okay. So first of all, I want to acknowledge the fact that this is a really important event for me because it's the first time that any PEN Center has taken the Imagination Manifesto and had an event sort of evoking it. So that's really special. So basically what happened is, I mean, maybe in your countries, you're not so aware of this, but there are some countries, especially English-speaking countries, where I really believe that the imagination is at risk. And there's this feeling of only being able to write about what you know about. And for example, I always give the example of the amazing writer James Baldwin in the United States, his scene that he wrote about a woman giving birth. As far as I'm concerned, it's the most beautiful birth scene I've ever read, and it was written by a man. And so I really began to feel that this was a threat. And then the whole thing about cultural appropriation and how we could no longer be inspired by things that didn't belong, so to speak, to us. And so I felt that, you know, PEN needs to be able to address what matters. And it also seemed to me that it was really important that the Imagination Manifesto would be a document that a writer could use to defend their choice to write about something that maybe they don't know anything about, or evoke ideas that came from someone else. And that even for publishers as well. I mean, in some countries right now, even books are being withdrawn because people are angry, because if you're not, you know, gay, how can you write about a gay person? And if you're not Black, how can you write about a Black person? And this has all become very heated and and worrisome, especially if you're a person that, so here it is. So Tomica has put it up there. So yeah, so this is the document, and I can read it. It says, Penn believes the imagination allows writers and readers to dress. No, that's not where it starts. It starts with the idea of frontiers. I think this is the second page that we're seeing. Tomica?
It is just a fragment. I just paste the fragment.
Oh, it's just a fragment?
Yeah, for everyone to see, like it's a fragment.
Okay. Well, I have the whole thing here, but maybe we can just send it to everybody in an email. You don't have to.
Everybody has it. I'll just put it on the screen while you speak, so you don't have to address the paper. So just like
okay.
I just placed it to see everybody to see. It's just a fragment, and everybody's seen before. So like, but it is so many.
So actually, in Penn, for those of you who are in Penn, the idea of frontiers is very important, because the opening of our charter, which is our sort of founding document of what we believe in, it starts out by saying literature knows no frontiers. So this concept of the frontier is very important to Penn. So after that, the Women's Manifesto, which I have here, begins also with the idea of frontiers, and it says, the first and founding principle of the Penn Charter asserts that literature knows no frontiers. These frontiers were traditionally thought of as borders between countries and people. For many women in the world, and for almost all women until relatively recently, the first and the last, and perhaps the most powerful frontier, was the door of the house she lived in, her parents' or her husband's home. So that's a new concept of the frontier. And then in the Imagination Manifesto, again, the frontier is present. So it says, the opening of the Penn International Charter states that literature knows no frontiers. This speaks to both real and, no less importantly, those imagined. So it's like these ideas of how the idea of frontier has progressed within the organization, which will be 100 years old next year.
Mm-hmm. And there is something that you also shared recently, was this opening of the first, in 100 years of Penn International, first indigenous pen has been opened in Chiapas, Mexico.
Yeah. The first Center for Indigenous Languages was established this year. Yeah. And the center, it's curious because Indigenous communities have a real sense of community and less of a sense of the individual. So they very much wanted it to be multicultural. So it's a center that embraces many languages, Maya, Tzotzil, Nahuatl, and up to 7 languages. So that's very special too.
Yes, of course. And you are working on the book next year that was planned to be presented at Oxford, the book of 100 years of Penn Centers. It is also something that is in motion, it is in publishing. Is it in publishing already?
Yeah, well, that's been amazing. So a group of 6 writers during the pandemic, what we've been doing, and it's now finished, it's quite amazing. So it was 6 writers, about 17 researchers, and 2 designers, the designers who do the books for the Museum of Modern Art in New York. So it's like really beautiful coffee table book with gorgeous images, a Tapiz cover, the great Catalan painter. And yeah, it's already going to many languages. So I know it's already promised, well, English, German, French, Swedish. We have a special grant to do it in Tibetan. So yeah, so it's coming along very well. It's finished actually now. Yeah. So are all of you in Penn? Are all of you members of Penn here?
No, actually.
No, you're not. We were talking about Penn.
Me neither. Me neither.
It's a very interesting question because I've tried not once, not twice, but more times to be in touch with the pen in Brazil. And I have never succeeded. I never got really an answer. I don't know if my fellow Brazilian poets here have had this experience. And, it has always been very frustrating to me, because I've been hosted by pen in many countries, but then in my own country, I feel this kind of barrier.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm always hoping that one will open in São Paulo or something. But actually, the Brazilian Pen Center is a really important center to pen, because it received Stefan Zweig after the Second World War. And the story of Stefan Zweig is a very important story for pen. He's a true great hero for us. So in this book, for example, this moment of Pen Brazil receiving Stefan Zweig is very important. What has happened with the Pen Center, and this is not just in Brazil, this happens with several centers. They're kind of old school centers. They're kind of still run at this point by people that are fairly old, who have ideas that pen is still like an elitist club a little bit. And we're trying to sort of change that. The center is in Rio, and they published a beautiful book about 5 years ago on the history of Brazilian pen. But it needs to, as many do, it needs to sort of open its arms to a younger generation of Brazilian writers.
It's really good to hear you, Jennifer, talking about this, because I think, especially now, we are living, I'm now in Iceland, but this is also something to do with the very, very difficult political situation that we have been living in Brazil and we are currently living. So I feel that now more than ever, we would need to have an open door, even to the poets who are in Brazil, that in this moment are in a great moment of need because of the political persecution and pressure that everybody is feeling. And I'm sure that Prisca and Thiago can speak even more than me, but at least part of my choice of leaving Brazil is also connected to a political situation.
Yeah, I mean, what happens in these situations, if you were to go to the Pen International site, and if you were to look up Brazil, you would see that Pen International has taken actions in Brazil that maybe the Brazilian Center hasn't. Sometimes Pen International will do, like, for example, in Mexico, because the Pen Mexico Center was suspended, Pen International acts a lot as the Pen Mexico Center. So, because especially Pen Mexico is a very important country to Pen International, because we have the highest number of journalists killed in the world every year for the last 10 years. So it's a foco rojo, as we say, you know. So yeah, I mean, do any of you know Horacio Costa? He lives in São Paulo. He's
a great friend of ours. Yeah.
Oh, he's a great friend of mine, a fantastic, one of my best friends, yeah. So Horacio lived in Mexico, and actually he established at the UNAM the whole Center for Brazilian Literature here, you know, and he did a lot of work on Saramago and all of that, you know. But so with Horacio, I'm always saying, Horacio, we need a Brazilian center in São Paulo, blah, blah. How interesting. Yeah, you're friends with him. Yeah, he's a great friend. So there's work to be done. You're very far away now in Iceland.
Yeah, but even being far away, I try to articulate as I can from a distance, from my poet friends around the world, especially facing these different political situations. I spoke about it when I came to Zagreb, and it was even before I moved out from Brazil. And at that point, we didn't even think, Thiago and I, that the situation could get so much worse than it was, right, Thiago?
Well, it's terrible, the situation. There's no doubt about it. You have a horrible president. Almost as bad as the Mexican one. What?
The time we were in Zagreb, we didn't have Bolsonaro as president yet.
No?
It was a better word before, yes. Now it's terrible.
Terrible,
yeah. That's a nice way to meet Pen International work, Pen International activities. like through this poetry manifestation events, even now, because this year we are entering the 100 years of PEN International. So please, if you have something also to ask our President Jennifer Clement, if somebody also wants to speak.
I'd just like to comment that it's curious that as South American poets, we needed to go to Zagreb to have connection with PEN, given the fact that presumably it should be very present where we are. I hope that changes to some extent.
Well, the thing about PEN is that because it's an organization of volunteers, everybody's working pro bono with very little money, most countries. I mean, there's very few centers that have any money. I mean, like the American Center is a very rich center, but that is the exception. So what I have found is that a center is really as strong as its president. So centers go up and go down depending on who has the time. So even if you get elected as the president of your center, you know, you have to earn a living, maybe you have commitments, family commitments, or, you know, not everybody can devote the time required, or you just do the best you can. I mean, when I was president of PEN Mexico, I said to the membership, I'm not doing anything literary because I have to earn a living, I have to give classes, I have to write books. And the situation with the killing of the journalists was so terrible. I knew that I only had the energy for that. So during my presidency, I have to say, we had no poetry readings, we did no publications. Everything was getting the attention of the Mexican government and the world, the attention on what was going on with the killing of journalists. And in fact, it was quite amazing, and this is where PEN can be so amazing. So in Mexico, the killing of a journalist was a state crime. And so when a journalist was killed, it was very often the state itself, the governor, the mayor, a senator, or whatever, who would be investigating very often their own crime. They had committed the crime that they were then investigating. So it was very important to change the law and to make sure that the killing of a journalist was a federal crime. So Amnesty International and CPJ and Article 19 and all these organizations had tried to put pressure on the Mexican Senate to change the law. And it didn't work. And it was not really until PEN got involved, because what you can do in PEN, which is very amazing when it happens, is that you can bring together all the presidents of all the centers, all the people who have won the Nobel Prize for Literature and for Peace, all the Swedish Academy, all the great writers of the world. You can actually, it's like a body, an intellectual world body that at certain moments can create a lot of pressure and create change. So that's what happened in Mexico. So as PEN president, I gathered together that intellectual force, and we went to the Senate and we shamed the Senate. And not everybody reacts to shame, but in Mexico, people still react to shame. And we changed the law. So even though for now that's only been a symbolic thing, it hasn't really changed anything in the country, we were able to do it. And these are the times where you can see how PEN can really make a difference sometimes. But yeah, it's an organization of volunteers. So right now, I mean, there's been a lot of really good work in PEN for Cuba, for what's happening in Cuba. A lot of good work also in Honduras and in Venezuela. We even had a sort of secret mission to Venezuela, sort of under the radar. So I think there is some good work being done in some countries in South America as well. So any other questions?
Yes, I don't have a question, but I'm very happy to hear all of you, and I would like to thank you for the invitation, because as Jorge from Colombia said, it is also my first contact with the pen in general. I have never been in touch, even though I'm from Macedonia and we also have pen here. I have never attended any event, and this is my first occasion to know a bit better what PEN International is doing. And I'm very impressed with the example you provided about Mexico and how you managed to really change the law. And this is something that we should all strive for, and maybe give more chances to young people and to volunteers who have really time to commit and to dedicate and to change something in the societies. Because like many post-communist countries, Macedonia is as well a country that is facing a lot of corruption, sexual corruption, and clientelism. So there is a lot of things to do for the writers as well. So I'm very grateful to all of you and to Tomica for the invitation.
Thank you, Natasha. And we have Steven. Steven, you are a little like 2 hours late, but no, it's okay. Nice to see you.
Tomica, I'm always 2 hours late. That's just because my mind's slow. Thank you so much, my friend. It's nice to see you again. It's been too long.
Yes. Well, we have started with saying that PEN is waiting for anniversary of 100 years of PEN International. With us is also Jennifer Clement, PEN International president, and the first woman elected for international PEN president. So like it's also something while of course the work that she done as the president has changed a lot. So in PEN, so it became more active, it became more visible, and manifests also that she done Women's Manifesto and this freedom of imagination. But you all know also from London, you are also collaborate with PEN a lot. You work, you have this European Poetry Festival. You are very active with magazines, with poetry manifestations. And so like if you have prepared, so we are poets. So what I have started to say that PEN starts with poets, as is known, but with poets. So, you know, even if you are late for 2 hours, if you are a poet, you are invited and you can read your 3 poems.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Thank you so much. I don't mind not reading my poems. You know, I just wanted to say the most important thing for me is that I work with English PEN a lot. So every year I run the English PEN Literary Festival in London, where I try and pair British writers with writers at risk around the world who English PEN have case studies, who they support. And that is a very special experience for the writers to actually have one-to-one contact with writers around the world who are trying to be supported by PEN International, who I have the chance to work with a little bit in London too, and also who then get to correspond. And sometimes when, as happened with Oleg Sentsov, then come to London afterwards and meet the writers that we've spent years and years running this yearly festival with, where we speak their name, where we read their stories, where we read poetry about them, where we read their letters. And then hopefully, if PEN is successful, as they have been so many times, then we actually get to meet them and welcome them into a community of writers in London. So that has been a huge part of my kind of career organizing event in London. Every year we do this. And that's all I wanted to say, really. I don't think my own poetry should be part of it, but that experience. And I got to write about Hadija Ismailova. I got to write about Oleg himself. And then when Oleg came to London, we had dinner and we spoke about that. And in England, we have this tradition really from writers like Harold Pinter, who was so big a supporter of English PEN, of innovative poets and innovative playwrights trying to support writers whose circumstances are far more difficult than that in England. So I think the reading that you're organizing here, Tomica, is really important. So thank you for letting me be a tiny part of it.
Thank you, Steven. So, like, it's I would like to thank you all. We have for joining us to be with us here. We will have more pen Zooms after the Christmas, of course, and after the New Year. But I'm very happy that you have been here, and very happy that also with you, dear poets, was our president of and also poet Jennifer Clement. And so we could share, and she could share from first hand what is pen doing now and what is it all about. So and then I hope that we will meet again for this reading or for some action that we take together on translating, on publishing the books, and everything also. Like it's we will continue. I think that is the good time for us if we are needing this 100 years of pen next autumn or next summer, to have this pen events where we will share light on of what pen is doing, and to see you all, and to learn what you are doing now, what you're working on, and very grateful that you shared your poetry and your time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tomica. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Jennifer, for answering.
Obrigada.
A pleasure. Muchas gracias a todos.
Gracias a todos. Gracias. Ciao.
Ciao, grazie.
Okay. See you again on
Thank you.
poetry event. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Ci vediamo.
Bye.
Bye.